Good afternoon once again from Golfo Aranci, where the season finale of the World Aquatics Open Water World Cup continues. And this time, it is time for the men's 3 kilometer knockout sprint. I'm Will Rollo, joined once again by Olympian and the voice of the World Cup Series this year, Alice Deering, as we turn to one of the sport's most explosive events. It's fast, it's tactical, and it's full of unpredictability. All eyes on David Bethlehem. He's been on the podium every time this format has been raced, and he comes in as a clear favourite after yesterday's 10 kilometre win. Alice, Bethlehem's made this event look effortlessly this season. What's the key to his success? And just as importantly, what does someone else have to do to beat him today?
Hey, yeah, I was just going through the stats, and again, yeah, David Bethlehem been on the podium every time, but so has Marc-Antoine Olivier. Um, David Bethlehem, the way he swims this, he makes it fast, he makes it quick. Of course, it's going to be fast, but he likes to be first every time as much as possible. Taking that win from the 1500 into the kilometre and then into the 500. He wants to be in front and he wants to make it happen. Marc Antoine Olivier will also be looking to do something very similar. There's a lot mixed in within that. But of course, Logan Fontaine, we've seen him looking in good form. He was seventh at Worlds, but also came second in Ibiza just a few weeks before that. So we're looking at a lot of people here. There's a lot of opportunities to make something happen.
And I mean, you speak about some of those big names that we are meeting now, Alice. Of course, a lot of these athletes backing up on an incredibly tough weekend, both the 10 kilometers yesterday, and here is one of those stars, Hector Pardo, who raced in that race. He didn't race in the relay as some of our athletes did this morning. Do you think that's somewhat of an advantage for the likes of, Hector Pardo, Bailey Armstrong, but even Marc-Antoine Olivier, who didn't get the opportunity to race his relay leg because his team was disqualified before he dived in?
Yeah, pretty crazy thing that actually happened there, I suppose. I think one of the swimmers didn't go through the finish funnel, and so they just kind of pulled the team out. Yeah, it's difficult because we won't know until they get in and swim how much the act it has affected them. I imagine it will be a lot. You had a 10K yesterday moving into the relay. In the relay, you could see some of the effort that was being put out. Like when the women got out of the water, their shoulders were bright red. It was a really tough and hard effort. So I think you can definitely take some confidence from the fact that you've been rested. But equally, on the flip side of that, for those who swam well in the relay, the likes of Logan Fontaine, for example, he might be feeling tired physically, but that mental boost that you get from having a silver medal in the 10 and then coming away with a gold medal in the relay for France. I think that's like a buff in its own way, like a real good push forward. It can work in either way depending on how you decide to
And Alice, we've talked about all year the, I guess, emotions that these athletes go through as they make that down from the mark in the even further here in the 3 kilometer knockout, specifically, of course, heat 2 being introduced first and foremost. Then they have to stand there and watch heat 1 not only be introduced but dive into the water. Talk to us about exactly how the athletes will be feeling in that holding pen.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. In open water, typically, you don't have too long to sit with your feelings and sit with your emotions. It does feel like a while, I'll be honest. Like in a 10K, for example, when you're walking out and, you're locked in, everything's focused, but you only have maybe 5 to 10 minutes before you actually dive in and all of those feelings are gone. Whereas with the with the 3K knockout and being in that second heat, you kind of have to stew with your emotions more. And the time will feel longer, it will feel dragged out, and you'll just want to get going. So you kind of need to focus on your game plan, focus on what you're doing, stay relaxed. You can see Hector chatting to his team official now, I think. Just like having a nice conversation and just kind of have that approach to it. Stay relaxed, stay calm, and your opportunity is going to come in a matter of moments.
And as we see that start list on our screen there, a noticeable out from the start of the race, Marcelo Guidi, part of the silver medal winning relay earlier today, has withdrawn from this knockout. I'm sure that will be playing on the minds of a lot of athletes. Reminder, of course, only 10 from each of these heats has been able to go through. We've got 65 athletes ready to take to the water, 33 in the first heat and 32 now in the second. It makes things very interesting for that top 10 position.
Yeah, just and I'm just even thinking about the logistics of, getting your race suit off, getting it back on. In open water, typically when you get the race suit off for the day, you're like, oh, I'm done for the day. Like I don't have to think about putting that back on. But even psychologically, just the thought of having to suit up twice in one day, and these aren't easy suits to get on. It's just interesting, this we haven't seen it at this level before, is what I'm saying. I know there will be other races around the world and other competitions where they have probably done back-to-back races, excuse me, back-to-back races within the day, but at this level, haven't seen it before. So, be really interesting after this to get some insights from both the men and the women on how it was, how they felt. Is the 10K still in there? Is the relay affecting it? But equally, it's just so exciting that we get to be treated to all three of the races this weekend. And I'm sure that athletes, as we can see, they've clearly voted with their feet. They are taking part in these races. They're giving it their all, and they know there's a lot on the line, and it's a lot worth racing for.
The 3K Knockout, Alice, initiative introduced at the start of this season. You can't argue the success that we've seen not only at the World Junior Championships, now the World Cup Series, and of course the World Championships earlier this year. Some of the experienced athletes that have raced it are, as we stated, David Bethlehem, Marc Antoine Olivier, but also one of the sort of smoky picks that you had at the World Championships, Ivan Puskovic, getting into the top 10, swimming in that final. How much do you think that experience of racing at such a high level, such fast speeds, is going to be beneficial for Puskovic? And potentially, could you see him, I mean, as the somewhat oracle of Ivan Puskovic, you see him cracking potentially a podium or a top five?
I love that. The Oracle of Ivan Puskovic. That's brilliant. No, so Ivan, seventh at Worlds, had a really, really good swim. I think surprised us, and I love being surprised in open water. That's the whole point of it. That's the essence. But yes, definitely for him, I'd be really excited to see what he can do here. There's a I think coming off the back of the relay, he had a great leg, swimming past Sasha Veli there. And Sasha Veli, also very experienced in this event, claiming a medal at the World Juniors a year ago, also ninth in Ibiza and sixth in Setubal. So, he knows what it's like to make the final. So I think Ivan on that knows what it's like to be at a Worlds final, but also on top of that, take some confidence that, you're really up there rubbing with a top five swimmer in the 10K, and really use that energy and use that drive and translate it into punching onto that podium. It'd be really exciting if he could do that for himself and Team USA.
So we just heard the 33rd and final athlete to be introduced in Heat 1, Krzysztof Rojowski of Hungary. And Alice, the 3 kilometer knockout, beneficial for so many reasons. One of those also being another opportunity for the athletes to prove themselves as we meet the start list now. Krzysztof Rojowski wearing cap number 33. He is one that has not had the year that he would have hoped after the momentum that he carried last year. This relay, the real last proving point.
Yes, you're so right. Rosowski, I think just the excitement that he can carry into this is looking really good. I really hope off the back of the relay, getting that really that great bronze medal for Hungary. I think there's something that he can really put down here and then put down a statement at the end of this year.
So here it is, the opportunity now ahead. This Heat 1, absolutely star-studded. You're talking the likes Krzysztof Rosowski, the Olympic champion, Marc Antoine Olivier, the bronze medalist from Rio and a world champion as well, a medalist in none other than David Bethlehem. We are in the hands of the starters now. This is Heat 1 of the men's 3 kilometer knockout here in Golfo Aranci. We watch the different strategies. Keep an eye on the left of screen. Second from the start, that is David Bethlehem. Watch his underwater work here. It is always exceptional off the starting pontoon. And we are underway in Golfo Aranci, and just as expected, David Bethlehem underwater for 20 meters. He's got a body length on the start. Wonder who that is in the middle of the field. That's going to be interesting. I'm not sure if you've got eyes on that. Maybe Marc Antoine Olivier, but that was fast underwaters on Italian. There you have it, Alice. a good tactic that is starting to spread in these knockout races.
Yes, you're so right. You know, we've seen David Bethlehem execute this at basically every race. He gets some really good underwater, and we're not just talking one or two kicks. We're talking like a good 15, 20 meters. You know, clearly he enjoys training that and utilizing it. But we've got this Italian swimmer. Hopefully, we can get sight on his number in a second. But looking really good and really strong to this first turn, boy.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's about three Italians sitting in the middle of the field: Diodato, Tripodi, and Capstangago as well. Simone, that one in number 23. So we'll try and get eyes on that number. But another incredible thing about these knockout races, you don't have much to play before the start to the first turn. We see in the background there Heat 2 getting ready to start, but Alice, it puts a lot of pressure on getting your position into that first turn, Cam.
Yes, this is the thing, you know, 3K knockout, it doesn't reward being lazy. It doesn't reward sitting back, letting somebody else do the work. You have to be on it from the jump. And the moment you get in, it's like, okay, actually, I really need to be in a good position to this first turn, boy, because it's going to be so hard to come past people because everybody is going for it from the start. So it's kind of like it's a smaller condensed 10K. Essentially, you need to make sure everything's right in the right moments. And you don't want to have to be worrying about your positioning when you're thinking about just going straight and being as fast as you can.
That's, I mean, you're breaking it down pretty simply there. That's how it's done. Unfortunately, these athletes make it look a lot easier than it seems. But for the first time, we don't have David Bethlehem leading the heat, Alice. This is a new one. Maybe he's slightly impacted from what we saw in that relay, and of course coming off the back of that incredible 10 kilometers yesterday, but he's choosing to sit back in this heat.
Yes, he is, and you know, there's a lot to think about here. You know, my shoulders might be feeling tired. I mean, quite a few people might be approaching this in different ways, and also it's a great opportunity to try something new. We have seen David Bethlehem on every single podium at the senior stage since it was introduced. So for him, it's kind of like, I know what I do works. Why don't I try something different? Why don't I try a new tactic? He is still trying to be up at the front. You know, he's swimming next to I can't quite pick out the cap, but you know, David Bethlehem is the athlete without. Oh, we're just starting the men's second heat, and off they go. Yeah, it's looking fast already, and someone's got a great start in the middle there with a real sprint technique with that like straight arm. I love it.
It's even Sullivan, eat your heart out. The 100-meter freestyle world record holder back in 2008 would be absolutely oh, that's Hector Pardo.
It's Hector.
There you go. No one better to tell it than yourself, Alice. He's not afraid to commit early.
Yeah, this is the funny thing about Hector. He is actually a really, really quick swimmer. His 1500 time isn't like world leading or anything like that. I think he's maybe like a 15:10 or so, but he's always had like a really good sprint, and that's what plays into his 10K technique. So I've been telling him for the past like couple months, bro, go do the 3K knockouts, go see what you can do. So it's great to see him finally doing one, and I'm really interested to see what he can make from it. But we're back with Heat 1 at the moment.
And we'll chop and change between the top two. I'll dig into some of that insight there, because when you do think about the 3-kilometer knockout, it almost sounds a perfect sort of chasm of the way that Hector loves to race. So very much excited to see him on the starting list here and committing to that 1500 meters, especially into that first turn. It all comes down to positioning. Really, you know, only top 10 in each heat will make it through to the semi-final, and then 10 from the semi-final into competing in the final. So when you start to turn the screws late in the race, you don't want to have to be making up space from 18 into 10, and that's why a lot of fast swimmers have been deciding to commit to the start. You can see there just at the bottom of your screen, that red can is the 500 meter turning can. So I guess Alice, as we progress through the rounds, it's nonsensical, but of course they get shorter and shorter. But sometimes seeing a 500 meter lap really throws our spectators.
Yes, yeah, you know, it's like a third of what we're used to seeing, less than a third of what we're used to seeing. And for athletes as well, it's quite jarring because you're only doing 500 meters in the pool. That's quite easy to break down into, long course, that's 10 lengths. Okay, cool. I can do this, this, and this with it. But in open water, you kind of get in, you swim, you start to get into your stroke, and then you're looking up, and all of a sudden you have a turn that you have to think about. You have to start getting your positioning right and make all of that happen. And we're just with Heat 2 at the moment. You can see I believe this is Heat 2, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's there's like Hector Pardo on the far side of the screen in the yellow cap swimming next to, I believe, an athlete in a white cap, and it's kind of taken a very different form to what we're seeing with Heat 1, which is always really interesting in the two different ways that the heats end up shaping up.
We'll see if we can stay on Heat 2 here for a bit, Alice, but very interesting to see those athletes split the way around the directional buoy on lap 1. But ultimately, when we come into that turn area, you want to be positioning yourself on the outer side of the pack, because ultimately they're the ones that control the destiny going into the turn, am I right?
Yes, yeah, this is where it's difficult. You kind of have to maybe, if you want to take the inside line, you have to trust your speed, trust your resilience. But yeah, the ones on the outside, they're going to come close. They're going to close in on you. You know that that's going to happen. It's inevitable. They're going to want the best line coming around it. So you have to be very strong in yourself, trust your ability, and not get squeezed out.
So we'll see how that plays out as we sit here with our first heat. They're coming, oh no, so still sitting with our second heat, in fact, swimming strongly out in front. We'll get an update on who that is in a second, but you can see just the strength that they maintain through their stroke. And we keep eyes on the far side of the course. This, of course, is Heat 1 underway, making their way to that far turn before turning left and heading back towards the end of lap 1. The beauty of this race, of course, we get to see those sprint finishes on every lap, and might not always be a sprint finish for first, but we do get those photo finishes all the way down to 10th. I guess, Alice, it's one thing that we really haven't touched on too much in the knockout series, but sometimes, as we did see at Worlds, there was a photo finish from 9th to 14th. As an athlete, how do you manage yourself through those moments where you might think that your day's over, you might think that it's not over, but you still have to manage your emotions, and then ultimately, well, as soon as you find out the results, try and calm yourself down and get ready for another 1,000 meters or 500 final?
Yeah, you're so right. Actually, there are instances, like you said, like at World Champs, where they ended up holding like five or six swimmers until they had the final result, and you kind of sat there nervously waiting. Is it going to be me? Am I going to be told to go? Of course, hoping that you have the opportunity to swim again, and you really have to like steel yourself and act as if you're going to get back in, because it's much easier to deal with the disappointment of, oh, okay, I don't have to do it anymore, let's go swim down, than saying, oh, it's not me anymore, getting over that, and then them saying, oh, actually no, like, you need to get ready, get in, you've got a couple minutes until you need to turn this around. So my approach would be to always, to any athlete that does happen to, and that could go for pool swimming as well, act as if you are going into the final, act as if you're going into the semi-final. It will do you a world of good. And yes, the disappointment's annoying that you haven't made it, but you can deal with that in a different way, and you have more time to unpack that. You don't have time to hype yourself back up to get back in for your second swim. And it is mentally challenging, definitely, and that's why I think a lot of the athletes who get in are looking to be punching at the front, because it removes any room of doubt. It removes that stress and that uncertainty that is really mentally and emotionally draining at the end of a 1500 swim or at the end of a 1,000-meter swim.
A perfect depiction there by Alice Deering. Of course, we often talk about in these races.
Today it has been glorious sunshine, it's been glorious racing, and we are hoping for a wonderful finish to the World Cup season right here. And that sprint event edges closer to the end of the first heat because they've taken the turn at the far side.
Sorry, we're just saying that it is often, at times, we talk about just how physically demanding these races are and how mentally demanding they are. But ultimately, what Alice was just saying there is the athletes, some of them would prefer to be more physically in depth than mentally in depth during some of these longer races. It's a crazy thing to think that you're swimming at max effort, but ultimately there's so much going on around you that you can't control, that sometimes it's just easier to be tired physically than it is to be tired mentally, of course. So it's we've actually had some great shots this weekend, Alice, that have showed exactly those moments. Some of the athletes putting their head up, looking at moves that are happening around them, and knowing whether or not to jump across. I think it was a great depiction in the end of the 4x1500 meter relay as well, where Logan Fontaine, with about 400 meters to go, looked out of the race, I guess, from a positioning point of view, but just managed to find him a great showing here of that turn. Those two different packs colliding, and you can see on the right side now, the inside of the course, those swimmers just getting jammed on that turn can, which shows why sometimes it is beneficial to sit out on the outer side of the course. And you can even see now the athletes that were jammed on the inside really losing the momentum around those cans.
Yeah, you're so right. It's really, really challenging. If you can get round and have that clean water and have a good turn, yes, great. You've done it really well. But all it takes is like one person in front of you to have to stop, to have to slow down. And if you're crunched on the inside, you're going to have people streaming past you, in this case on your right hand shoulder, and thinking, oh, okay, I wish I hadn't put myself in this position. And you look now, you've got a clear two in front, and then four behind them, so that's 6 places done up. But look behind, look at that row of the swimmers. You can see two Italians, a USA, Hector Pardo in the yellow hat for Britain, another Italian next to him. It's going to be really, really tight going into this finish. And I think up at the front we have Logan Fontaine and potentially Kovac Serez of Hungary taking the lead.
Kovac Serez, another one of those athletes who has raced this a number of times, including at the World Junior Championships last year, just making the move to swim on the outside of Logan Fontaine. We had a great depiction from Alice earlier today where it was interesting to see Dario Varani, Logan Fontaine, and Krzysztof Rosowski all going to battle, and ultimately what that was three immovable objects, as Alice put them. And Hana Kovac Serez just showing exactly how immovable Logan Fontaine can be as he takes the inside line of the course. So sometimes it can be a lot quicker, as you see Kovac Serez having to fall back a half body length. But as you get further into that pack, the chaos is so immense, and it can really zap your momentum. And Alice, as we look at this overhead shot coming through the turn, it was within 12 athletes in the first three sort of lines. Now we're down to 3 athletes in the top 3 lines, and the 12 will now catch up. But we very rarely see this in the men's race where it's so packed up at the front.
Yeah, you're so right. Actually, this is very similar to a women's race, to be honest, in that way. And we often with the men's race see, long lines string out, or potentially even like 2 different lines forming, because the men want to really be like, I'm taking my own line. I trust myself. I don't want anyone to steal my water. But in this heat, I suppose this kind of makes sense because there's no one who's obviously going to try and lead it. You've got Logan Fontaine at the front doing the work. He wants to find that clear water. He wants to get his space. But at the same time, he's also very comfortable sat in the pack and making things happen from the middle of the race. So the fact that he's gone out there and is leading it indicates that there's no clear, like, I want to lead this and I want to really inject the pace through this straight swimmer.
We'll see how that plays out down this final straight as well now, Alice. It's great to have you on the commentary team, as it has been all year and through last year as well, and providing those expert comments all through the year as well. We've had an incredible broadcast team bringing the action around the world, and I'm sure we'll get a chance to thank everyone later in the broadcast. But for now, of course, we'll say thank you. As you can see, exactly on cue once again, Alice. I honestly, you must have pictures that are 30 seconds quicker than me, because you've predicted it once again. There's 2 different lines setting up as we come down the final straight.
Yeah, I said I like patterns. Yeah. No, I suppose this is very typical of what we see. We've got Davide Marcello, who, came 7th in Ibiza. So is I think trying something different here. I don't remember seeing him lead in either Ibiza or Setubal. Unfortunately, didn't get to see him perform at the World Championships due to the depth that Italy can field. But he looks like he's having a really, really good swim here. And sat in behind him is David Bethlehem, our no, sorry, not our world champion, our second at Worlds, first in Setubal, and also first. Did he? Is it second or first in Ibiza? Apologies, second in Ibiza.
Second,
Oliver
yeah.
Comment, yeah, with that. Both swimming so quickly. But yeah, Davide looks really, really good here.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think almost like a rule change off the back of the swim that we saw from Ollie Clement in Ibiza. That's how dominant both him and Bethlehem were in that first race. But this is really impressive here, out in front by Marcello, just 23 years of age. It's a famous thing that you say, Alice. You know, as soon as you take care of one Italian, another one pops up, and that's exactly what we're seeing here as they come down the finish arch. The first time Marcello leads Bethlehem. Behind him is Bailey Armstrong of Australia and a host of Italians all in the mix as well. There are some big names in Heat 1, including Marc-Antoine Olivier, who we can just see on the left of screen, currently sitting in about 6th position, but there's no doubting the wind is going to go the way of Davide Marcello. He even shuts it down slightly down through the finish arch and does so confidently. Second goes the way of Bethlehem. I think there was Armstrong in third, and your guess is as good as mine. Oh no, Brant Di Macedo, my apologies. The Brazilian, what a weekend he's had. Olivier in fourth, Garcia, Confronto, Diodado, Zhang, all in the top 8. Nanderberger and Kapala finishing off the fantastic form he showed in day one. So at this stage, no photo finish for the top 10, but equally just as many fireworks, Alice.
Yeah, and there's a lot of names in there. There's a lot of athletes in there. It's going to be really exciting to see them back it up in the semi-final. But as you can see, they're getting out, being told where to sit. They've got towels and water on those chairs waiting for them. And this is where it's all about making sure your recovery strategy is sound. And just kind of on cue, we're seeing another separation of our men in Heat 2 as they come down this final straight. And this is where it's going to be messy. I think there's definitely going to be some photo finishes for this heat.
Alice, 2 massive outs in that heat. Krzysztof Rozovsky and Ivan Puskovic missing out on the semi-final. That's huge.
That is huge, yeah. Rozovsky 6th at Worlds, 4th in Ibiza, and Ivan Puskovic 7th at Worlds. So not having the day that they would like in this terms, and this is the thing, it's only 1,500 meters. You do not have that much time to make things happen, and if a mistake happens, it's going to be punished. You're not going to get that opportunity. And look at what's happening here with the men's Heat 2. It's getting really stacked up, and it's going to be a dogfight to get your hand on for the 10th place.
Oh, 100%, and that's exactly what we like to see. There are some massive names once again entered in for Heat 2, the likes of Logan Fontaine, who we saw near the front there, Andrea Filadelli swimming strongly as well. There are some big names. Where they're going to sit as they come down, you can see that yellow cap there. That is, of course, Hector Pardo. So it looks like now leading the way on the closest part of the camera is Andrea Filadelli for the Italians in the 36. It does look like Varani stroke, funnily enough. So we'll see exactly how it plays out. But Logan Fontaine having the absolute best weekend of the year thus far, and he looks so strong out in front as they come down now to the finish arch. We get a shot there. So 36 in fact, that is Andrea Filadelli swimming strongly, and as Alice mentioned, swimming in his own water, not interested in the fight that is due to come down this finish arch, especially with the likes of Logan Fontaine in the mix. So here they are now entering the finish chute, and you can see just across that camera shot all the athletes really battling through. Look at that shot there. There's 10 in the finish chute now, and then a host of athletes coming through. Hector Pardo with a little bit of work to do. The fast starter from Great Britain, he's going to have to charge through on the touch. Out in front, though, still is Logan Fontaine. He's done enough throughout this entire heat. He's going to come down and take it out. He does so confidently out in front and just continues to swim on. Oh, so many hats in there. It's hard to pick, but Philadelphia are saying on top. Of course, commentators curse. Italy get 1 and 3 and 5 and 6. We can keep going with this, but Strucker in 7th. There's some big names in there, Alice. I don't think we're going to miss any of the massive expectations in Heat 2.
Yeah, and sorry, just want to shout out that I think we might have been wrong with Kovac Serez in terms of the Hungarian athlete that was out leading with Logan Fontaine for the majority of that race. Believe that was Kapati, Mate Kapati of Hungary. So again, not a name that we have spoken about much. Absolutely fantastic that he's moving through into this in a really high position and was up there challenging with Logan Fontaine. And this is what the 3K knockout's about. It's exciting. It gives something different. It gives athletes another opportunity to get in and not have to worry about doing a whole 10K. Just get some functions right. Get the speed. Get the competitiveness right. And we're just getting confirmation of the rest of the heat now.
So Giuseppe Ilario in 10th, the bronze medalist from the 10 kilometers in Ibiza. And as we get this shot here, Alice, interesting. This isn't something that we factored in to the recovery time, but you are essentially wasting time waiting for that ladder to become available. I wonder if that's going to play into a bit of the strategy. Make sure you can get out of the water quickly.
That's such a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, it's so true. Like, yeah, get out. Like, you need to get out, get ready. If you're ending up waiting for this ladder, do a little swim down. Take some moments, do some circles or something. Because, yeah, you just don't really want to waste time treading water and thinking, oh, I need to get out, and then you might get a bit agitated by it. But I mean, maybe some of the people who definitely aren't going through might have been like, oh, okay, you go. But with that finish, I mean, who knows where everybody was finishing? So yeah. But it's great to see the coaches here, getting to talk to their athletes, and this is something that we've spoken about before. Actually, is like you find that you get some communication, you get to speak to your coaches, and it's not like a drive-by whilst you're swimming through the feeding pontoon, and there's literally 50 different voices with multiple different languages shouting different things, and it's really hard to pick out the person that you want to hear. It's actually nice you can have some one-on-one conversations and hopefully pick up some good insights and information going into the semi-final.
And another factor as well, Alice, which plays in here, Golfo Aranci, of course, the home crowd will get the chance to really cheer on some of these athletes. So, for the likes of the Italians, Dario Varani, Andrea Filadelli, Luca Dutulio, who we saw take third in that Heat 2, this is an opportunity to get some, a bit of a vibe check from the supporters in the crowd.
You are so right. That is so much fun, actually. Yeah, like to really take that energy from them, and we're seeing a whole number of Italian athletes moving into into the semi-final. So, yeah, you can really take some energy from that, take the enjoyment, and I think just enjoy it is the one thing. It's hard, it's difficult. You've put in some really hard meters of racing over the past 24 hours, but now the sun's out, it's shining. It looks like it's good vibes, and I think just get in and enjoy it. And you've got 1,500 meters of swimming left to go. Hopefully, well, for half of them, 1,500 meters. For some of them, only a K. So you need to make the most of every meter that you're given.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, where else would you want to be racing as well? This postcard destination, Italy, really putting on a show here in Golfo Aranci, as it did last year for the World Junior Championship. So they've held a couple of athletes here. Bailey Armstrong on screen there. I'm not sure if he's actually made it through, and that's part of it. So here we have Heat 1's results. As we saw, Marcello taking the win, Bethlehem Brandt Di Macedo in third. Rounding out is Kapala of Poland, as Alice mentioned. Zhang gets in for the People's Republic of China. So as we saw there, a couple of athletes will now end their day and I guess go and start setting themselves for what the World Cup Series is for next year. It's a tough fact this time of year. On the other side of this event is a lot of hard training.
Yes, definitely. For some athletes who might have swam through some since the World Championships, this might be their rest time. This might be the time to take some opportunity to travel, get some rest, reevaluate as well. See if there's anything new that you want to try. If you're looking at moving training programs, perhaps in some cases, um, it's a real great opportunity to just take a moment, especially before everything kicks off again for 2026, and there'll be so much excitement wrapped up within that. It's really important that athletes do find their downtime. But even for some athletes, that might be just looking towards pool training, pool racing, and the opportunities that lie with that.
Well, interesting to see just on screen before Bailey Armstrong of Australia speaking with Coach Byrne. So just confirming that on screen just before was Bailey Armstrong of Australia talking with Coach Byrne of Germany, of course, the famous training squad that they have. Here is the confirmation of Heat 2. So as it was before, Giuseppe Ilaria rounding out the top 10. There are five Italians, in fact, that swim in the top 10 in Heat 2. So a number of Italians getting ready to race that final. But Alice, as you mentioned, the time to be looking at where your coaches are based, and that could be playing effect in front of our eyes.
Yeah, you take those opportunities, get as much information as you can. Yeah, Bailey Armstrong talking to Byrne is really interesting and really cool, but I think we're seconds away from starting, and they've just dived in now. 20 men, there's only 10 spaces. You can see David Bethlehem on the far left of your screen getting that really good line, but they're already at the turn. Oh, sorry, this is highlights. This is highlights. My apologies. Will, help me out.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just we'll watch back Heat 1 and 2 here. But as you said, Alice, I mean, it was such an exceptional start there from David Bethlehem. But you could see, I mean, everyone was up for it in this heat. It's not the first time we've seen it. The first time we did see it in Ibiza was a bit of a scary prospect. But now there's a bit of an adjustment. And Heat 2 started with a flash of fury as well, Alice, with the straight arm there from your boy Hector Pardo.
Yes, definitely. And this is the thing, you need to get out there and go for it. It's about biding your time and making the opportunities work in the right way, but make it fast. You do have to be up there. And we saw how close it ends up coming down to in terms of, less than half a second to get into that semi-final. And the same as it's going to be exactly the same for the final. And, we've only got 1,000 meters to deal with. They're 500 meters less, so there's a lot to think about and a lot to make right and get right within a very short amount of time.
And Alice, 8 Italians swimming from the final
Wow,
today. That is incredible, right? That is a depth that we've never seen before.
that's like two full like single gender relay teams. Like I don't think we really appreciate well, we do speak about it a lot and I definitely appreciate it, but really let that sink in. Like you have 8 men who are really that good to consistently
Yeah.
be making a semi-final for this competition, and it's not like the rest of the field or the rest of the world is like it is weak in any way. We're seeing
Yeah.
athletes like Hector Pardo, who is a world medalist in the 10K, Christoph Rozovsky, not in the semi-final. It's crazy.
Well, and I mean, not to make it even scarier, Alice, but you add the likes of Gregorio Patroneri, Domenico Azzarenzo, Marcelo Guidi, then you're probably looking at 11 people in this semi-final as well. That's it's bonkers to think about. But as you said, like resumes don't mean anything in these 3 kilometer knockouts. Oh, actually, just touching on it, look at the speed they are swimming through to that ladder there. Like
Yeah, to
I
get
think there's something in this.
I think you're right. It is. You're so right because I imagine the clock starts as soon as they're kind of done. You know, it's I think the time's a little bit loose, especially because we have to make sure we get the right athletes and things like that. But every second does matter, even if it's not physical, mentally. Getting out first. I mean, what a confidence boost that is! Like getting out first and being like, "Yeah, I'm the first one. Let me get my preparations in order."
And really, you know, 5 extra hard strokes after 1500 meters of effort means absolutely nothing. So I think we'll watch it at the end of this heat, because that's the first time I've seen it come through with such vigor. But Alice, we talked about how the rule changes came into effect after Ibiza, where some swimmers they essentially got to pick wherever they wanted to stand on the starting pontoon. We're seeing some dictation here from the officials. Not sure if that's exactly correct. I'm pretty sure they can start wherever they want.
Yeah, this is where it's interesting, you know. Completely depends on how much the swimmers are feeling to answer to authority to start with. And also, yeah, they are being told where to stand, and I think it sometimes it just depends a bit on the organisation committee on the day, and you know their interpretation of what the rules say. And it has been very different for every race we've gone to, and I actually quite like that it's different. It spices it up. It means you know, we saw, was it Setchable, where um, everybody kind of grouped up in two clumps. Like one side was with David Bethlehem, and then I think the other side was with Krzysztof Rozowski. And it was very much like, okay, who do you want to deal with? Do you want to deal with David Bethlehem's speed, or do you want to deal with the fact that you're going to be next to the Olympic champion who is looking strong and good? So they might actually enjoy the fact that they're being told where to stand for once, because it takes it out of your hands.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's almost a freedom that comes from that. Here we have the start list of the semi-final. As we mentioned, 20 athletes to enter the water. Philadelphia and Marcello, the winners from Heat 1 and 2. And then Ilario and Capala rounding out the field for Italy and Poland. As we said, 8 Italians set to take to the water in this semi-final. There's only 10 spots up for grabs in the final. As we see now, both Alario and Kapala head down to the start line. This is the semi-final of the men's 3 kilometers knockout. 1,000 meters ahead to find out who will be contesting that gold medal in the hands of the starters now. And underway in Golfo Aranci. 2 races to come, the 1,000 meters to determine who gets the chance to swim for gold. And once again, some great underwater work on the far side of the course, and a good start as well. Not so much underwater, but swimming very strongly was Davide Marcello out in the very far inside of the course.
Yeah, and I think you see Paul Niederberg from Switzerland as well in the red cap closest to us too. So what I noticed there was there were quite a few athletes that did do the underwater thing. You know, initially in Ibiza and Setchable, it was basically only David Bethlehem that tried it. But you know, definitely saw some of the athletes on the further side just suddenly popping up quite a bit in front, and just showcasing the speed that you can bring in with some underwater kicks. But looking clean round this boy is that David Bethlehem?
Yeah, yeah, that is the Hungarian, showing just the speed that he has in his arsenal. And oh my goodness, when he turns it on, it turns so quickly. You can see this year, 2025, I think is going to be remembered as a very interesting year for David Bethlehem, because this was the opportunity where he came in as a developing athlete. He was a world champion back in 2022, junior world champion, that is. He broke onto the podium last year in Setable in preparations for the Olympics. Obviously, had a great Olympics on the way through. Now he stands up as a world championship medalist and a World Cup gold medalist. He's just really swimming into his own now.
Yeah, and I really like that he has found his own style of swimming, if that makes sense. You know, this is the fun thing about open water swimming. There are so many different kind of techniques and opportunities to it, and I think where what's so exciting about David is he has just this raw speed. And, we'd see him up at the front in the World Cups, really like gunning for those sprint laps, making that happen, and then seeing that translate to a fantastic bronze medal at the Olympic Games. And then now moving through to yesterday, getting his first World Cup win, and he's going from strength to strength at the moment. Look how fast he's going.
Yeah, he looks unbelievable out in front. We'll get a check on exactly who that is behind him. I believe that is Philadelphia's just tucked in behind, but it's also very hard to pick. There's one of 8 Italian caps swimming. Maybe we should send them to the school of Brooks Travis, Alice, and get some defining tape on each one of their caps.
Please, 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 please. And for the French as well. And maybe throw the German team into that too. Yes, please. Anything which can identify you, because we want to sing about you, we want to tell the world about, about your achievements and everything, but then it's so difficult with the caps, and unfortunately it's quite difficult to see on their arms as well. But either way, whoever this is, you're looking great, you're looking strong, and yeah, keep moving forward. And I think that might be Logan Fontaine tucked in behind. He's got quite a distinctive suit on this weekend, so been able to pick that out quite easily. So he's sat in 3rd place at the moment.
Yeah, and looking very strong is Fontaine. I think, oh, there it is, Davide Marcello sitting in 2nd. So finishing off that first heat exceptionally well was Davide Marcello, actually taking the win there ahead of David Bethlehem, and Logan Fontaine was 2nd in Heat 2 as well. So there is a lot of firepower at the front of this race, and this is an incredible overhead shot once again, just seeing the ebbs and flows of the pack. We saw it really play into consideration in the women's race yesterday, Alice, the sort of snaking that happens at the front and the impact that it can have on the back of the field. And you can see these athletes that mightn't have had the best of starts, as they try to move through, those snaking patterns can really impact those swimmers, especially considering their momentum that they have to generate to get into that top 10.
Yes, you're so right. So, you're trying to focus on going forward as fast as possible in these moments. Like in the 10K, it's less annoying because you're just kind of like maybe not going through the motions, but it's not as hard. The effort you're putting in, you don't have to concentrate as much. Like you can kind of accept that it's zigzagging and things like that. But when you're trying to go as fast as possible and you want as few meters as possible, because it's only 1,000 meters and every meter that you swim further is going to be point something of a second, which is going to add up massively when you're just trying to get into the top 10. It can be really frustrating, and you can't lose your emotional energy. You can't lose your head with it. You need to stay locked in and just kind of deal with the consequences of it, especially approaching this turn buoy. And we'll see these 3 swimmers get round quite cleanly. The 4th swimmer will probably be fine, but after that, it's going to be really, really like condensed and challenging, and there'll be quite a few swimmers that will lose a lot of place in these moments.
And here we have it as it plays. You can see some of those athletes just trying to dart around the cans, and they get through relatively cleanly, much cleaner than what we saw in the heat earlier today. But even still, you can see that gap opening up from David Bethlehem, just not relenting with that pace at all. So we can see a line of 4 headed by 2 athletes, and then 2 behind them. That is, of course, 8, with 2 spots left after that. It's really going to start to spice up, and you want to be making a move at this point in the race. You don't need to be losing any momentum around that final turn, especially with the likes of Bethlehem. He won't let off at all on this final turn. He knows exactly the chaos that's being ensued behind. But sometimes, Alice, they do play with the turns, slowing down slightly into the turn, making those packs. It's all part of the tactics of the race.
Yeah, definitely. As you just basically slowing down into a turn, you have to do it and time it very well. You kind of just let off the speed ever so slightly as you approach the buoy, maybe 1 or 2 strokes out, and then get round it as fast as you can and really speed up and try and carry some momentum out of it. And what that'll do is it'll shock the swimmer behind you. They'll slow down because they realize they suddenly might be on your feet or on your legs, or they'll try to move around you. And it's like a knock-on snake effect, and then all of a sudden it gets very heavily bunched up behind. I don't think David Bethlehem has done that in this case. I don't think he's playing around with tactics. His tactic is, I'm going to swim as fast as I can and take the best lines that I can and win. And it means that the rest of the pack behind him don't have to worry about any of that like tactical, mind games. But it also means that yes, you're going to have to move very quickly, and it's going to be a hard physical effort, less so potentially emotionally and mentally.
So now on the final straight, we'll see what that means for the pack and what that means ultimately for the top 10 that will have a chance to qualify for the final. Alice, there's been some conjecture around exactly how these heats play out, and then from the semi to the final as well. So essentially at the end of heat 2, the clock starts for 10 minutes. 10 minutes essentially to find out exactly who is in the top 10 in each heat, get them ready, give them a chance to talk to their coaches, cool down very quickly, and then ultimately come down and start the next race. That changes for the final. It's about 7 minutes between the end of the semi-final into the final. That being, of course, there's only 10 athletes to introduce onto the starting pontoon. So it is a quicker turnaround between the two heats, and we often see some athletes being caught out in that 7 minutes. And when you're talking about 7 to 10 minutes, it makes a massive difference when you consider the stopwatch starts as soon as they hit the touchpad.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things where I think physically it's been discussed that it doesn't make too much of a difference because of the distance that it's been swam over, but mentally and emotionally, like if you start to think, oh, it's unfair that they've got like more time than me and things like that, it's not a train of thought that you want to get into. They're the conditions that you're dealt, they're conditions that everybody else in your heat has been dealt. You've got to get in and deal with them, and I guarantee there will be people in your heat that make it through to the next round, and you want to be one of them. So there's a potential for a lot of mind games to be played, both for swimmers against each other, but also against themselves. So there's a lot of voices that you have to like kind of quieten in your mind, and the race is going to be swam, and the medals are going to be given out, and you have to do everything in your power to make sure that you can be one of those athletes.
I mean, that is exactly what every athlete should be aspiring for, and perfectly depicting exactly what open water swimming is all about as well. Ultimately, you can only control what you can control, and everything else you kind of have to just battle through. And as we said yesterday, swim to your strength and minimize your weaknesses, and that's exactly what Bethlehem has done here. As he leads, I believe, sitting in second, it still is none other than Davide Marcello. Just behind him, we've seen Marc-Antoine Olivier move into the mix, and I think Logan Fontaine sitting alongside Marc-Antoine Olivier, pulling off to this side now. We know how good he is in the finish shoot. Andrea Filadelli up there as well. So all the big names from the heats still swimming in this final as we come down into the finish shoot.
Yeah, I just want to say
just out of the screen now. I think this is exactly how Bethlehem would have liked to see it play out. He's got a lot of fire in the tank, a lot of excitement to win this heat, and I guess ultimately looking towards a maiden, or not even a maiden title, a second knockout title for Bethlehem, carrying on the fine form that he showed in Setable. At the moment, he's out in front, he's leading the way, he's not getting involved with any of the argy-bargy sitting behind him, being led by none other than Logan Fontaine. They're very close into the finishing pontoon, but it's not going to matter for Bethlehem as he sits out in front of Davide Marcello to come down to take the win in semi-final 2. Remember, 10 athletes moving through to the final. Bethlehem will join them there. That's one spot, 2 there to Marcello. 3, I believe, goes the way close to Filadelli. And that is the top 3. Fontaine 4th, Zhang of China swimming in, Olivier Varani. Who else is going to join them? Straka of Czechia in as well. And Kapala in 9th, Garcia. So there is a massive mix here, Alice, in that top 10 of some massive names and some rising stars as well.
Yeah, this is really exciting. Yeah, we have got a really nice mix. You know, a lot of the people that we expect to be in there, for example, of course, David Bethlehem, Marc-Antoine Olivier as well. Both of them being the only two athletes across both the men's and the women's. Please do correct me if I have that wrong, Will. Who have been on every podium. That we have had at the senior stage for this, which is really cool stat. And David Bethlehem definitely looks like he wants to continue that dominance of winning medals in this event and kind of, yeah, making this event his in a way. That is a really exciting prospect. It's like every time it's been raced, of the 4 times it's been raced, you're on the podium. It's really special.
It's honestly unbelievable, especially how unpredictable the men's race has been this year, and then the level of unpredictability that comes in to the 3 kilometer knockout. To think that we have two athletes that have been on the podium at every stop, I mean, especially the form that Florian Wellbrock was in at the World Championships. You've only got two opportunities outside of that. That's crazy, and to think that one of them is only 22 years of age is even crazier.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's got me thinking about the fact that all of these races have been very different. Like, for example, David Bethlehem has dealt with many different iterations of this race. You know, he had Ollie Clement to kind of contend with in Ibiza. Setubal, I would say, was the David Bethlehem show in terms of this event. But then the World Championships was definitely the Florian Wellbrock show. So for David Bethlehem and Marc-Antoine Olivier to be able to adapt to the different forms of this race just showcases like the I don't know the caliber of athlete that we're dealing with these men. Like to keep surviving round after round and keep adapting to it is really exciting.
Oh, it's definitely a storyline that we're going to be keeping our eye on into this finish, and I'm sure every athlete in the final as well will be wanting to knock off that, I guess, result that's happened at the first 4 stops of this introductory race. We keep an eye as well on Zhang Jiang of the People's Republic of China. Alice in fifth on the finish there. Not a name that we've repeated that often this year, but he's shown up both in the 10 and now in the knockout, and he means business.
Yes, and you know, China do have a great they have like some really cool opportunities in open water swimming. I remember Zin back in 2016, I believe. I think she was fourth at the Rio Olympics, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
She won the qualification race in Setubal and carried that momentum into having a really good result at the Olympics. And I think it's an event that China hasn't quite cracked. We see some really dominant pool swims from our Chinese swimmers, and maybe not so much in open water, but like I've been saying, with countries like Japan, for example, like Australia, like USA, that are typically very strong pool swimming nations, haven't quite seen them translate that into open water. It's really exciting that we're seeing that opportunity now, and just seeing Zhang on the screen at the moment, getting some water from his coach, and yeah, just really exciting that we're seeing more of that. And also to our Polish athlete as well, it's really exciting that yeah, I like different nations in there. It's so cool to get to sing about the depth of Italy and the depth of France, but it's really important that we have other countries getting in and knowing that they are capable of getting these opportunities for their athletes too.
And two nations that didn't necessarily have the opportunity to race in the relays either here in Ibiza, but Zhang was 8th in the 10K yesterday. Kapala also having a strong swim in the individual race, but now we have the opportunity to see them race in the 3 kilometer knockout final as they start to be introduced. Interesting to note, Zhang hasn't raced since the Chinese National Swimming Championship short course last year in September, where he swam a 14:58 1500. So I reckon he's swimming faster in the water now than he was in the pooled short course. So here we have it. What does Zhang have as he stands up to be introduced? We've seen some of the other athletes on the starting pontoon. Reminder, Garcia of Spain, Kapala of Poland, Straka of Czechia, Varani in for Italy, Olivier for France, Zhang for China, Fontaine for France, Philadelphia for Italy, Marcello for Italy, and Hungary represented by David Bethlehem. And here we have it, Alice, the final 500 meters for the men's program for 2025. I'm very excited about what this race has in store.
Me too. This was a tight turnaround too. I didn't really quite time how many minutes they had since they got out, but you know, you have to get this right. Whilst it's only 500 meters, oh, is it going to be fast and it's going to be hard? And you know who's going to be gunning for it. David Bethlehem having that outside line. And if you want to stop him from doing that, you're going to have to act very quickly because he's going to be gone.
That's right, and we've seen Marcello really have his number on the start. It's only Bethlehem on that first turn of the semi-final where he was able to just get away and sit out in front. So I think they'll take notes from that. They know what's required here, especially Fontaine, the week he's had. We'll see how it goes as they get into the hands of the starters, and they are underway. The final time for 2025, the 500-meter final, and out on top currently Marcello. What a start once more.
Yes, he's been showcasing some absolutely fantastic speed in this race this weekend. Really exciting to see what he can do. He's definitely a future name, and the problem is with the Italians is overcoming the likes of Philadelphia, Verani, Palcineri, Accarenza. You've got so many people to overcome to get onto that team. So really great that he's got this opportunity to get some confidence for himself and showcase to us and to the Italian Federation what he can do.
Well, Marcello is a 3:47 for 400-meter freestyle, so has some exceptional pull speed, but ultimately, what a turn it was out in front. David Bethlehem just tucking under there. He's so good in those skills as well. He's really such a well-rounded swimmer.
This is what I mean about open water swimming. He's utilizing the cards that he's been dealt. He's not the biggest swimmer. He's quite lean, like on the smaller side of the men, but it doesn't stop him from being one of the best in the world and from being the best in the world at this competition. He's showcasing to us that, yeah, I can do this. It doesn't matter what your body is like. I think open water back in the day used to be seen as like for the bigger guys, and because you're going to get pushed around and stuff like that. But you can still get in at any size and be any kind of athlete and make it work for you. And it's showcasing that by tucking around that boy, utilizing his speed and letting it carry through. And everybody else is like left trying to catch up.
Well, I was going to say the only thing that I could see being Bethlehem's kryptonite is a big, powerful swimmer. And what do we have there? The ominous sound of a fast-moving Logan Fontaine just sitting in second. Philadelphia just behind as well. So there's some big names, some big swimmers set to move through the field. Marc-Antoine Olivier, expect him to push up. But equally so, Alice, we've seen it time and time again, especially in this 500-meter final. Often the swimmers that are battling for the minors can start fighting against each other, and that can lead to a slight breakaway. So exactly how it plays out is up to the swimmers as they now make their way down this turn. On the far side of the course, the 500-meter laps really churn through quickly. Leading is David Bethlehem of Hungary, the 10K gold medalist yesterday. We've yet to see a 10K knockout double at the World Cup stops. Trying to keep eyes on who is in second there. It's very hard to pick, but at this stage, Alice, if you were a betting person, you would have your money on Bethlehem out in front.
Yes, it's very rare we see somebody get swam past when they're in this position on the 3K knockout. I don't know if that is Marc-Antoine Olivier in second. I don't know if that's me, potentially wishful thinking for him off the back of not having potentially being a bit disappointed with his race yesterday. So I'm not sure. It's definitely Logan Fontaine in behind that in that middle pack there, but I think that might be Marc-Antoine Olivier in second, which would make sense for what we know and for what we expect from these two swimmers that have been on the podium every time we have raced this race.
Yeah, it does look like Mark at the moment. He's holding that second position. There's a lot of infighting for third there, and you can see some of those big names starting to get mixed up as we move now to the final turn. Interesting to note, Marcello recently received a yellow card for diving under the turn there. Oh, that's going to be line mark as well. I don't think it was Marcelo on the inside. I think it was actually Logan Fontaine. So now, in fact, the two Frenchmen getting a little bit of clear water, pulling into second and third, but still out in front is David Bethlehem.
Yeah, you know, this thing about the turns, we had it, was it Soma Bay where we saw multiple of the Italian athletes kind of disqualified at the end of the race because the officials were kind of like, okay, we actually really need to punish diving under the buoy and make sure that's clean. But looking at this at the moment, we're seeing a real surge back from, I'm not sure which athlete that is in the white cap, but Logan Fontaine is not in an ideal position here. And oh, this is what you were talking about, Will, where you know you can end up battling for the minor medals and kind of getting dragged back. I think it's safe to say the gold medal's gone, but we have a real fight for second and third here.
Yeah, that is so true, and it does stop at fifth. I think the lead for sixth is Martin Strucker, that's currently sitting just behind for Czechia. He's working very hard, but it's not going to be enough to close down for the medals. The gold medal looking the way of the Hungarian as we come down now to finish off the final event for 2025, the men's 3 kilometer knockout. The women's still to come, but for now we're about to crown a champion. Can Bethlehem go the double, the 10 kilometers on day one into the 3 kilometer knockout? He's going to have a tough finish here. You can see the move coming from Marc-Antoine Olivier, but the eggs come to fruition here down the final straight. There's been an answer from David Bethlehem. He saw Marc-Antoine Olivier starting to lift. The third medal is going to be intense between what looks like a mixture of Fontaine, Philadelphia, and of course the likes of the other Italians. But out in front, it is David Bethlehem of Hungary. He's been on every podium. He won this race in Setable. He won yesterday in the 10K, and he wins today again, showing the dominance on the touch. It goes the way of the Hungarian. Marc-Antoine Olivier gets second, continuing that pattern, and the touch for bronze is as good as anyone's. It looks like Kapala may have even been in there in the white Polish cap, and Varani looking the best of the Italians. But Alice, what a finish that was from David Bethlehem and Marc-Antoine Olivier. 4 out of 4 for 2025.
What a stat that is. That is so impressive. Being able to stand up time and time again and get on these podiums and make something special from it is really cool. And this is the second podium as well for Logan Fontaine, so he's taken 2 out of 4 and being in every final that we have had on show from this. So we are definitely seeing a number of athletes taking to this and shining with it. And just a shout out to Zhang, nearly dethroning Fontaine from that third place there, which would have been really cool for China. I hope it's not the last we see of him. I'm sure it won't be. That's very exciting for them, and a great indication of what's to come from China in open water swimming.
Well, it's pretty crazy to think that he split the difference between of course Logan Fontaine and Dario Varani there. You're talking about 2 of probably the best 5 finishers in the world, and in the middle, Ziyang Zhang of the People's Republic of China getting in the mix. I think we just saw David Bethlehem. He wasn't in a rush to get out over the ladder in the final there, so maybe he was just continuing that fine form. Yep, there he is, the last out of the water in the final, so it only matters in the heats and the semis.
Do you know what? I love it. Savor the moment. As one thing I know since I've retired is kind of like how quickly these moments go by, and you know, you're constantly on to the next thing, constantly thinking, oh, I need to go pack my suitcase or something silly like that. No, enjoy the moment. You've just got on the podium for the 4th time this year, 4 out of 4 since this event was created, and it's just really special. So yeah, I absolutely love it when you see athletes enjoying that moment, soaking it all in, because it does go by quickly, and you really want to remember it all. And finishing 3.5 seconds clear of the field in a 500-meter straight is so impressive.
It is unbelievable, and I guess we saw it yesterday in the 10K. He just hit the touchpad and then stopped, turned around and watched the rest of the field come in. We've seen ominous pictures before this season, Alice, where the likes of Florian Warbrock rolling onto his back with no one in the finish arch. But I think there's a new level of confidence behind Bethlehem after he was on the podium at the World Championships to touch the finish pad and to roll around and watch other people finish is a show of confidence in what he's able to produce. And ultimately, he's talked the talk, he's walked the walk, and he was a big reason why Hungary was on the podium in the 4x 1500 meter mixed relay. And he's done everything else he could here in Golfo Aranci, taking 2 golds. The first time we've actually seen that at the World Cups.
Oh, amazing. And get to hear from him now, which is always fantastic.
You do look tired. You look like you're a bit of pain there.
Yeah, it was very painful. After the 1500, I felt my stomach is hurting. So I was like, yeah, I just need to do this and then I can go home. So I'm happy that I'm finished. And I'm happy I won 2 gold medals and the bronze with the relay. So it was an amazing weekend.
Just very quickly, I know you do want to go, but this has been a new event this season. How have you found it? How have the rest of the swimmers taken to this knockout?
Yeah, I think it's very good to swim this because it's lots happening and it's always a new race. So we have 3 laps and it's a 3 totally different race. I have 3 totally different people next to me. For example, in the first lap I didn't see Marc Antoine, for example, because he was in another heat. So it's very great, and I hope it will be at the Olympics.
Excellent stuff. Give a big round of applause. Your medal winner this time around, David Bethlehem.
Facciamolo forte l'applauso, abbiamo sentito l'intervista di David Bethlehem dell'Ungheria.
So there we have it. The insights from the athletes has been much appreciated all year round, Alice, and Bethlehem delivering once again. He's showing whilst he is excited, he's keen to get back to work at training.
Yeah, I really absolutely love hearing from the athletes. It's always so important. It's always great to get that insight from them. We're not in a sport that is unfortunately gifted with press conferences or that are constant and year round. So just getting those moments afterwards, and he said he was tired, said his stomach was hurting, then but he got in and made it happen, and that's what's so great about athletes like that.
Unfortunately for David, he can't go pack his bags. He's got to stick around for the women's race. The medals for both the men's and women's to come at the conclusion of the women's race. If you are tuning in around the world, we are just under an hour away from kicking off the women's 3-kilometer knockout. So please go have a break and we'll meet with you very shortly as we get to call all the action and bring back the big names that have been competing here in Golfo Aranci. Can we see a double champion again for Ginevra Terauchi? We'll find out in an hour's time. I'm Will Rollo, joined once again by Alice Steering. Thanks for joining us. We'll be with you shortly.
Representing Italy, Andrea Conforto. Controllo a video da parte della giuria per sapere i 10 nomi, i 10 finalisti. Facciamolo partire adesso. The top 6 was good to sort out, the rest will take some time. Si conclude la semifinale della 3 km knockout. E sono partiti in questo momento, è iniziata la finalissima della